We have so much more to get into, and for that, we bring in Article 3 Project founder, legal scholar, and former chief of nominations for the Senate Judiciary Committee, your favorite lawyer and mine, Mike Davis. Thank you so much for being with us, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
It's a true pleasure. So it's a lot to discuss. So first off, talk about the most explosive parts of these whistleblower allegations. What more serious crimes potentially Hunter could have been charged with, and potentially still could, and the damage Merrick Garland is doing for allegedly covering it all up.
Joe Biden made millions of dollars for himself, and it seems like every family member in the Biden crime family, except for the 4-year-old granddaughter who they don't claim in Arkansas. And they made this millions and millions and millions of dollars through their corrupt foreign bribery schemes involving China, Ukraine, Romania, other countries. The Justice Department and the IRS have known about this for many years, right? Going back to maybe even 2017. And there has been an effort to cover this up for years. And it's by the Biden Justice Department. Frankly, it's by a U.S. attorney up in Delaware who everyone says is a Trump appointee. I was the chief counsel for nominations. I can assure you this was not a Trump appointee. U.S. senators, home state senators, picked their U.S. attorney, and David Weiss in Delaware is the handpicked U.S. attorney from both Democrat U.S. senators.
So, we see a lot of discussion with leading members of Congress. We now see Speaker McCarthy mentioning it as well. There seems to be a growing chorus suggesting that it's time to impeach Merrick Garland. Tell us what your thoughts are and your analysis of it, the possibility of it, whether you think it's a good idea, and on what grounds.
I have been calling for Merrick Garland's impeachment for the last 10 months since the unprecedented, unlawful, unnecessary
raid on Mar-a-Lago.
Trump to go get presidential records that President Trump was allowed to have under the Presidential Records Act. I was actually shocked with Merrick Garland because Merrick Garland was nominated by President Obama for the Supreme Court. He didn't get it. Republicans blocked him, thank God. And my other former boss, Justice Neil Gorsuch, got the slot. But when Merrick Garland became the nominee for Attorney General, I thought he would just be an old judge and an aloof, old school lawyer. He would just kind of govern, probably liberal, but with somewhat of an even hand. Merrick Garland has completely politicized and weaponized the Biden Justice Department to go after Trump, Trump's top aides, Trump's supporters, Christians praying outside of abortion clinics, parents showing up to school board meetings because of the trash that these Marxists are teaching in public schools. And he ignores, while he's going after Trump and Trump's top aides and supporters, he ignores the obvious crimes from the Biden family. President Biden is clearly compromised by millions of dollars in foreign payments. And they have hid this for years and years and years. Frankly, I want to know what Bill Barr did about this. Bill Barr is out there trashing Trump.
Question.
What did Bill Barr do about these allegations after he learned about them in January of 2020? He sent them to David Weiss, the Democrat-picked U.S. attorney, and didn't follow up, didn't think it would be a good idea to let Congress, key congressional officials, know that a presidential candidate could be compromised by millions in foreign payments. That's just not a good place that we're in right now, where we have a president compromised.
No, you're absolutely right. And this is the problem. I used to think it was so bad when Eric Holder was doing the bidding of Obama. But this guy is really shaping up to be an equal nemesis and inappropriate with what he's doing, weaponizing the DOJ.
Yeah, I mean, this is the same attorney general who allowed illegal obstruction of justice campaigns for many months. They're still going on outside of conservative Supreme Court justices' homes, which is a clear violation of 18 U.S.C. 1507, obstruction of justice. It led to a 1 a.m. assassination attempt against Justice Kavanaugh, his wife, Ashley, and their 2 teenage daughters. It was a lot closer than people know. And, we had to have justices go to safe homes. Garland did nothing about this, yet he was going after Christians praying outside of abortion clinics and parents at school board meetings and rounding up every person on January 6th who merely trespassed into the Capitol. There's a difference between the people who were there on January 6th. They had a legal right to be there. There was a permit by the National Park Service. Even if you think they're wrong, they still have a right under the First Amendment. The people who trespass should be punished, appropriately, but they don't seem to punish BLM and Antifa when they're trespassing, constantly firebombing the Portland Federal Courthouse, firebombing Secret Service guard stations at the White House, firebombing St. John's Church. We can't have two systems of justice in America. That is unsustainable for our republic. And Merrick Garland has been the tip of the spear for the left to politicize and weaponize our justice system, and that's why House Republicans need to impeach him.
Yeah, well, it seems like there is a growing chorus, like I said, and a growing body of evidence. What's very frustrating to me as a former prosecutor is, rather than use like the laptop to assist in this investigation, the FBI covered it all up. They knew it was authentic. They played this game with the media being complicit, essentially as co-conspirators aiding and abetting the disinformation that the FBI and DOJ were putting out. They cover this up, and it looks like, quite frankly, just like a tentacle, an extension of the Clinton-Russia collusion playbook from 2016.
Yeah, I mean, the FBI has interfered in the last three presidential elections. In 2016, Hillary Clinton, as the Secretary of State, had an illegal home server that was hacked by our worst enemies, probably Russia, with our most classified secrets. And it probably had evidence of the Clinton Foundation's pay-for-play bribery schemes and other corruption. So Hillary Clinton gets subpoenaed by Congress. She destroys the evidence in the face of a subpoena. But maybe Russia still had a copy, their hacked copy, and maybe that's where they came up with this Russian collusion hoax against Trump, just in case that Russia decided to release that.
Yeah, it's a cover story.
Yeah, so that's 2016. 2020, Hunter Biden's laptop. And it's not just because this guy's a degenerate with drugs and hookers. It's because that a presidential candidate, Joe Biden, likely is compromised by millions of dollars in payments by Chinese, Ukrainian, and other oligarchs. And they cover this up. And the American people had a right to know before they're electing a president whether he's compromised.
1,000%.
They're doing the same thing with Trump. They're going after Trump for his presidential records he's allowed to have under the Presidential Records Act, when Biden had 5 stashes of stolen classified records, moved several times, accessible by his Chinese agent on his payroll. And what did the Biden Justice Department do? They colluded with Biden secretly for 2 months to cover this up while they did a home raid on Trump.
Terrible. That's exactly what they did. They're always like, don't look right here, look over here about what they're doing. And even more egregious is that at the same time that Donald Trump was being, impeached over a phone call, which was perfect, with Ukraine, the FBI and the IRS already knew that there was evidence that the Bidens laundered around $10 million from Burisma. So it kind of goes back to what I've always say, what they're accusing everyone else of doing is in fact what they are doing themselves.
Yeah, I mean, think about this. President Obama put Vice President Biden in charge of Ukraine, and the Bidens cashed in and made millions and millions of dollars. And maybe Russia smelled the weakness, because Russia took Crimea under Vice President Biden, and now Russia's going back to take the rest of Ukraine. We didn't have a Russian invasion of Ukraine during the 4 years of the Trump presidency, and it's because Biden is so clearly compromised. He took allegedly took a $10 million foreign bribe from Burisma, and in exchange, Biden got the president of Ukraine to fire the Ukrainian prosecutor who was investigating Burisma and the Bidens. If that ends up being true, which it sounds like it is, Biden cannot stay in office. He's clearly compromised. He's proven that he will use positions of trust to cash in for his family and sell out America.
You're absolutely right. Profits over patriotism and duty to your country. I don't understand, quite frankly, how this guy is still in office given all this, and Merrick Garland, quite frankly, in his position. It's not like this is speculation. It's not like it's partisan politics. It's a facts and evidence, and then being covered up at the highest level. I think sometimes people have a hard time even wrapping their head around this, because it's just like, how can this be so open and notorious, so outrageous, but then where are the repercussions? I mean, how many times they impeached Trump and tried to like throw him in jail, right? Oldest playbook in the world. It's like, okay, you can't beat your primary political rival, let's throw him in jail. But yet Biden is still occupying the White House and hiding little baby Hunter, little baby crackhead, in the White House to avoid, charges, etc. And they give him a little smack on the wrist. And I just don't get this. And, furthermore, isn't it DOJ policy to charge the highest, most reasonably provable offense? That goes back to Ashcroft and Holder. But for Hunter and Joe, the rules apparently are different.
And think about what they did with these charges. They charged him for failing to file taxes in 2017 and 2018, along with this felony gun charge that's going to go away. So he's going to be found guilty of 2 misdemeanors that they're not recommending jail time. And guess what? I bet you anything, when that plea agreement actually comes out, you're going to see a very broad waiver where he's not going to be charged for. And 2017, 2018, that's when the $10 million would have come in from Burisma to Joe Biden. And so they're apparently the Biden Justice Department just doesn't care. They're not going to look at that. They're going to cover this up. Just imagine if the Trumps, if President Trump and Don Jr., let's just imagine that they weren't in the real estate business. They didn't have a legitimate business. Let's just imagine that President Trump is in office and Don Jr. was his bag man for foreign corruption. How long do you think President Trump would be in office if that were the case? But you hear crickets from the mainstream media, the liberal media, terrible. Washington Post, CNN, crickets from them. But if this were Trump, he'd be gone.
No, I think there's no question already. It would have been like kangaroo court, 3 seconds, okay, impeached, gone, removed from office. Now with the left-wing corruption, and that's what it is, in full view, full world display, it's Donald Trump is the one who must, face one witch hunt after another. Can you talk about kind of the legal strategy that you see here, and what should be the most, kind of the first and most important move that his lawyers make at this juncture, given what we know?
Well, this is lawfare against President Trump, and it's on many different fronts. It started with Soros-funded Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg in New York. They had this zombie case they're trying to charge Trump for settling a nuisance claim, which is very routine for business people to make them go away. That's not hush money. That's routine. And it's not illegal. And right. Alvin Bragg tried to turn this into a felony federal election charges against Trump, which is just complete nonsense. This is a legal theory that was passed over by the prior Manhattan DA, the Manhattan U.S. Attorney, the Federal Election Commission, and Alvin Bragg himself, until Matthew Colangelo got sent from the number 3 office in the Biden Justice Department to go resuscitate this zombie case with Alvin Bragg. So that's one part of the lawfare. The second part is this Jack Smith, this Democrat hitman who was sent in to take out Republican presidential candidates, like he did with Bob McDonnell back before 2016, the Virginia governor, with a bogus legal overturned, reversed 8-0 by the Supreme Court. So Jack Smith is going to go after Trump for the non-crime of a former president having his presidential records, which is allowed under the Presidential Records Act. And then he's also going to look at Trump for the non-crime of January 6th, that somehow people showing up on January 6th with a legal permit from the National Park Service and a protest that got out of control and turned into a riot is somehow a seditious conspiracy or some other nonsense. And so that's another part of what Jack Smith's looking at. And Fannie Willis down in Georgia is also looking at January 6th, another Democrat prosecutor, where they're going to try to charge Trump for objecting under the Electoral Count Act of 1887 to the presidential election, which it's allowed. Democrats objected in 1969, 2001, 2005, and 2017, but somehow it's a crime when Trump does, because he twists arms, which is allowed by the First Amendment. So this is lawfare. They fear they can't beat Trump in the next election, so they simply are indicting him.
Yeah, it's just terrible. I mean, it really is like out of a banana republic. And to imprison your primary political rival. And that's what they're doing. They don't want to face him in 2024. But, it's one baseless sham investigation after the next while they turn a blind eye. So many people said, and Bill Barr actually even mentioned this in an article, he said, and on television, he said, well, they have to go after Hunter, essentially speaking, you have to show that you're being fair, that you're not just targeting President Trump. And a lot of people speculated that that's why they came up with these sham charges and slap on the wrist, clearly in violation of policy against Hunter, to make it appear, perception is reality, that they were in fact doing something besides going after Trump. So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, with President Trump, Biden and Garland want him to die in prison over a fight with Biden's librarians and other bureaucrats over presidential records he's allowed to have under the Presidential Records Act. With Hunter Biden, the bagman for Joe Biden, they don't want him to spend one day in prison after there's clear evidence of millions of dollars in foreign bribery and corruption to Joe Biden and his extended family, except for the 4-year-old granddaughter, of course, because they don't claim her. He had a gun charge. He had a felony gun charge. Just imagine if this were an African American with a gun charge. Would the Biden Justice Department say that he doesn't get no jail time there?
Right. Yeah, that's what Kodak Black and his attorney were saying, and there's such a disproportionate, impact and result compared to other people who have been charged with these things. And it's like Hunter, it's just unbelievable. The guy can do whatever he wants. I mean, literally just whatever he wants, and there's no repercussions.
Yeah, I mean, and they're not even trying to hide it anymore. It's just they have two systems of justice. This is what leftists do to destroy countries, and we're well on our way. This is not our parents' or grandparents' Democrat Party. These are not liberals who love America and just disagree with conservatives on the best way to get there. These are leftists. These are Marxists. They hate America. They hate free speech. They believe in censorship.
Very
they hate
different party.
Due process. They believe in a presumption of guilt, Me Too presumption of guilt, and they don't believe in equal justice of law. I mean, we're seeing that very clearly. We have two systems of justice, and they're kind of just rubbing our faces in it because they don't care.
Where do you see all this going from here? I want you to give me your, put on your Psychic Friends network hat and go, okay, this is what I think is going to happen with Hunter. This is what I think is going to happen with Biden. This is what I think is going to happen with Trump. Even if you scare us all with what you say, tell us the truth. Give us the goods.
Well, I think that nothing's going to happen to Hunter and nothing's going to happen to Joe Biden. And legally, I would say not with the Biden Justice Department. Of course, they're not going to do anything against their boss and their boss's son. I mean, it's just egregious that David Weiss was not a special counsel, or they didn't appoint a special counsel in this situation when there's allegations that Attorney General Merrick Garland blocked the charges. The IRS whistleblower says that. So nothing will happen to the Bidens. I think at the end of the day, Trump is going to legally prevail in all of his cases, but I think it's going to take the Supreme Court once again stepping in and reversing Jack Smith. But I do think that this will be resolved by the American people putting Trump back in the White House in January of 2025, and we can just make all this go away immediately, which is what needs to happen.
Yeah, I think that is the case, that, that it'll come down to a jury of your peers on the ballot and on election day. And if he gets in, then that's that. But imagine just all of this chaos and noise and craziness going on in the interim. They're trying absolutely anything and everything they can to try to stop him. But it's really, quite frankly, he's in a great mood. He's making him even stronger. I mean, he's somebody who really thrives in a very, tough situation that would break somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, the uniparty in D.C. hates President Trump because they can't control him. The globalist, the free trade people, the pro-immigration people, they can't control him. The business, the corporations, they can't control President Trump. He's uncontrollable. And that's why they hate him.
I know.
Trying to take him out.
It's unbelievable. Well, we like our odds. He's going to push through and persevere. But I just hope, justice delayed is not justice denied. I think the American people want to restore dignity and integrity to our government institutions. They don't like this weaponization, the politicization, the lawfare that has been used and demonstrated. No one should like it. This should be something of bipartisan uniformity and consent to say, hey, we don't like this happening in our country. Because if it can happen to him, it can happen on the other side too. So they shouldn't be so naive just because they've been so emboldened going forward with this. And it doesn't mean there can't be investigations, right? Going forward, President Trump gets in with special counsel or different things, appointed to look into these matters. I mean, there needs to be a reckoning. I really do believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the American people get to decide elections, not Joe Biden and Merrick Garland and Alvin Bragg and Fannie Willis. The American people get to decide the election. And that's
not government bureaucracies.
That's what they fear, is the American people will decide the next election and Trump will be back in the White House.
That's absolutely right. I talked about that in my Washington Times article, op-ed piece that I wrote. Well, we'll see what happens. It's never a dull moment, but we always love having you on the show. Thank you for being such a fabulous guest and breaking it all down for us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Take care, Mike.